Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
And it looks like, at least they're calling it, a terror incident at the UK Parliament. CNN and the drive-by media terribly distressed that this is being called a terror incident, but the UK saying that the police there are treating it as a terrorist incident until they know otherwise. Conflicting news about what actually happened. A cop has apparently been stabbed, and pedestrians were mowed down in by virtue of a runaway car, and driver originally reported as a truck and then a minivan, and now it's a car. And you can see pictures. There's clearly a car that's looks like it's been stopped by a fence trying to ram the grounds. Greetings, folks. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh here with Broadcast Excellence for the next 3 hours. The telephone number is 800-282-2882. And if you want to send an email, lrushbo@eibnet.us. So the London police are treating this as a terrorist incident until we know otherwise. Now, there are some things in the news, some conflicting stories in the news. And by the way, I must say, folks, I have never seen the media like this. I thought I had seen full-fledged, undisguised, raw media bias before, but I have never seen anything like this. I have a stack in here of at least 50 pages. And every story, no, I don't care what it is, every story savages Donald Trump in some way regarding the story. If it's healthcare, if it's this, the terror incident in the UK, if it happens to be this so-called ban of electronic devices on flights coming into the U.S., the Washington Post headline on that one, Trump won't allow you to use iPads or laptops on certain airlines. Let me just go through some of this. I mean, it's incredible. Hill Republicans say they're growing frustrated with Mattis. This is Mad Dog Mattis, and he is the defense secretary. And the reason they're mad is that this guy wants to hire Obama people as his assistants. His unconventional choices for top Pentagon posts and his reluctance to aggressively push for dramatic increases in the defense budget have rankled Republicans on Capitol Hill. He did, this story's actually not new. I knew that Mattis had tried to hire a couple of Obama people, one of them a female, as a high-ranking aide. That had people flummoxed, but this story goes on to say that Mattis is a genius, that Mattis is a great guy. Mattis is trying to moderate this insane lunatic Trump. And thank God for Mattis. At least there's somebody in this administration who understands the threat posed by Trump. So that's where this story is. Schumer calls for delaying Gorsuch vote because of Trump-Russia probe. Have you heard about this? The Democrats are trying to figure out how they want to lose the Gorsuch vote. There is a political strategy to losing the Gorsuch vote. And the Democrats are trying to figure out the best way to lose, because they're not going to be able to mount the votes to stop the guy. You know, Leonard Leo, the Federalist Society, and Mitch McConnell have said, if this guy can't pen, by the way, these two quotes kind of crack me up in their own way. If Gorsuch can't be confirmed, then there isn't any judge nominated by a Republican president that can be confirmed. These guys are just figuring this out? Are they just now figuring out that the objective going on here is stopping? You know, when I first saw the name Gorsuch nominated, if I may make a departure here, I started listening to people analyze Gorsuch in terms of what kind of a jurist is he? He's a great judge, he's this or that. And I said, these guys not know what's going on. It doesn't matter. In fact, the better this guy is, the more pure he is, the greater threat he's going to be. Why do the people on our side of the aisle still not get that everything is political and all of it is oriented toward resistance? The qualifications of these people don't matter. Their character doesn't matter. So, look, I appreciate the sentiment. If my gosh, this Gorsuch guy is so great, he's so perfect that if we can't get him confirmed, there's not a single Republican nominee who could be. Welcome to the real world. That's the objective, to make sure not a single Republican ever is confirmed. To make sure that not a single Republican is ever elected president. And if that happens, to destroy him ASAP. Those are the rules that we are playing by here. And somehow we've got ourselves convinced that we can win the battle here and force the Democrats to support what we're doing by nominating quality people. This latest theory is being abounded, put up by Schumer, and Elizabeth Warren has weighed in on it. And it basically is this. Well, since Comey said that there's an ongoing investigation of Trump colluding with the Russians to steal the election from Hillary, then we must delay the vote for Gorsuch. We can't confirm this guy. Well, why not? I mean, if he's been nominated by a duly elected president, and if he's gone through the confirmation process, and if nobody's found anything wrong with him, why not confirm him? Answer, because he's not legitimate, because Trump isn't legitimate. And if this investigation shows anything that would warrant action against Trump, then these people want to say that Gorsuch should not be voted on until Trump is cleared. Well, do you realize when that's going to happen? You realize how long this investigation could go on? The Democrats are in no hurry for this Trump-Russia investigation to end, because if they get their way, they'll use it to stop anything. I know you're saying, but Rush, we have the votes. We have the, not in the Senate, we don't have 60 votes. But Rush, we have the nuclear option. Yeah, we do, but I don't see anybody's trigger finger getting very itchy on this. But it's clear that the resistance and the opposition here is not based on anything substantive. All of this is rooted in the belief and the effort every day to establish that Donald Trump is not a legitimate president, that he was elected due to fraud, cheating, collusion, what have you. So Schumer calls for delaying Gorsuch vote because of Trump-Russian probe. How idiotic. No, it's not. It's typical. It's exactly typical. It's exactly what you would expect the Democrats to do. And, of course, there are ways around it, but, well, you just vote on the guy. You just confirm him. And you turn on a little offense and turn it right back on him and start asking, okay, you know you're going to lose here, Senator Schumer. How do you want to lose? Do you want to lose with 51 votes? Or you want to lose with 60 votes? You want to lose next week? You want to lose next month? How are you going to lose? You tell me, Senator Schumer, because you're going to lose. You make up your mind how you want to lose. But Gorsuch is being confirmed. Now, that's just one. Let's keep going here. Third day. Let's see. I'm sorry, folks. These pages stick together. The best laid plans of mice and men. 3 pages per day. MSNBC's Matthew slams Mr. Nice Guy Gorsuch. It's not his turn. Yeah, because it's Merrick Garland's turn. Should have been Merrick Garland. Gorsuch ought to not even been nominated. Garland should have been confirmed. Politico, Susan Rice, White House's false statements could put the U.S. in danger. How in the hell? This is the woman that went on television 5 different shows on a Sunday and lied about Benghazi, and she's sufficing as a source for the drive-by media claiming that this White House false statements putting the U.S. in danger. Oh, this one has nothing to do with Trump. She created period-proof underwear to empower women. Now she's accused of sexual harassment. Do you care about the details of that story? Do you want to know about that one? Have you ever heard of period-proof panties? You haven't? It's a great millennial invention. Apparently, they really work, according to the story. But the CEO, the woman that founded it, is a lousy CEO, and she runs around feeling up other female employees, and there's no human resources department to complain to. So now they've gone to the New York Board or City Department of, disadvantaged workers or whatever, and they're getting ready to move the babe out. And it's just a bunch of millennials. There's another story. This one also has nothing to do with Trump. There's another story about what's really causing the snowflake phenomenon on college campus. Tell me if you think this holds any merit. That essentially what's happened is that a young bunch of baby boomer kids and grandkids who were farmed out to daycare as soon as their parents could get rid of them. Age 1, age 2, send them to daycare. That these kids, it became such a formative experience that when they get to college, they want college to be another version of daycare. With protection and safety and no feelings hurt, just like kids are treated when they're 4 or 5 in kindergarten, this is how they want to be treated in college. Because of the impact of daycare on them. Daycare was another great liberal invention, which was designed to separate kids from their parents under the premise that the government could do a better job of inoculating or propagandizing young kids than their parents could. It's an interesting theory worth exploring. And you want to hear more about the period-proof underwear? Put that aside. In Maryland, this is unbelievable. In Maryland, we have the rape of a Rockville Haskell student by 2 undocumented immigrants. And now the state of Maryland is taking a vote on whether they should become sanctuary state. We're going to take a vote on how we are openly going to break and flout the law. And again, this is because of Trump, because Trump is making everybody scared. Everybody's afraid they're going to be deported. We need to provide a safe haven for anybody who's afraid of Donald Trump. Trump GOP leaders lack votes to pass Obamacare repeal. Americans worry, cheer as Congress moves to upend the Affordable Care Act. Trump GOP struggle to find health care votes. House Obamacare repeal, DOA in the Senate. Every headline, Trump's penchant for vengeance casts shadow on health care vote. It just never ends. Republicans face catch-22 on whether to back Trump care, face the wrath of Trump, or face the wrath of the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers are back, and they're competitors to Trump, and Republicans are scared to death. They don't know who to be afraid of more, Trump, the voters, or the Koch brothers. GOP governors battling Trump's budget in private. This story is from thehill.com, and it's all about how Republican governors think that Trump's office rocker is it's dangerous, and they've got to find some way they're meeting in private to find ways to subvert Trump's budget. Because it's frightening. The dangers posed to this country by Donald Trump are requiring all of these secret meetings to find ways to subvert what Trump wants to do without Trump knowing about it. Wall Street Journal lead editorial, a president's credibility. Trump's falsehoods are eroding public trust at home and abroad. If President Trump announced that North Korea launched a missile that landed within 100 miles of Hawaii, would most Americans believe him? With the rest of the world? We're not sure. Here at the Wall Street Journal, which speaks to the damage that Trump is doing to his presidency with his seemingly endless stream of exaggerations, evidence-free accusations, implausible denials, and other falsehoods. The latest example is Trump's refusal to back off his Saturday morning tweet of 3 weeks ago that he had found that Barack Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory on election. This has got him so bugged they can't see straight in the drive-bys. That Trump made that allegation about Obama and won't apologize and won't pull it back. They think Trump is insane. Folks, I don't know this. I really don't, because I don't live in Washington and I seldom go there. But I would be stunned if there weren't regularly scheduled, very private meetings in deep, dark crevices of underground Washington with various people and groups trying to plot what they can do to overturn this, to fix this, to get rid of Trump. I think they are so discombobulated. I think they are still so panicked. And remember now, most of the Washington establishment is hardcore leftist. And I think they really believe that Donald Trump is mentally unbalanced. I think they really believe that Donald Trump is insane. I think this is in addition to whatever else they fear over having lost the election and an outsider coming in and effectively taking control of what they have run for 50 years. That's bad enough. Just having lost the election, which they thought was going to be a landslide win, and that life was going to continue as it was. They were going to continue to do well. The deconstruction of the United States was going to continue. We're going to sign on to all this global warming stuff. The United Nations was going to take on an ever more important role. United States as a superpower was going to be reducing in strength, dwindling down, and so forth. Then this comes along, and here comes talk of a wall and not letting immigrants in and unsettling talk about sanctuary cities, creating Americans, just the exact opposite of this agenda. That alone is enough to cause these people to be in abject panic. Now you add to it the stuff they think Trump is doing that is genuinely insane, like refusing to apologize for claiming Obama was wiretapping him, and other similar things. They are, I think if there's any insanity in Washington, either clinical or just conversational insanity, it's not Trump, it's everybody else there. And man, are they unified. Like I say, it doesn't matter. Turn on a TV network. Go to a website and read any so-called mainstream media website, and it is never ending. The personal assaults, the policy assaults on Trump. I can hear you out there saying, Rush, you shouldn't sound... I'm not, folks, don't misunderstand me now. None of this opposition surprises me. I'm the one who expected this. And I'm not expecting any of this to turn into love and admiration and support for Trump. What has me concerned is not the insanity of Donald Trump. What has me concerned is the insanity of everybody else and what they might do. Because they're the ones, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the CNN, these are the people that are out of sorts. These are the people that have lost. These are the people who've had their world crumble. These are the people who've lost whatever claimed power they thought they had. These are the people, to me, who are dangerous. We will be back. Don't go away. Here is a line from the Wall Street Journal editorial. Yet the president clings to his assertion that Obama wiretapped him like a drunk to an empty gin bottle, rolling out his press spokesman to make more dubious claims. I don't remember the Wall Street Journal ever getting this exercised over the way the Obama administration routinely characterized conservatives. You remember, it wasn't long into the Obama second term where I think it was Loretta Lynch released a report on domestic terror and claimed that right-wing groups and websites and media figures posed the greatest terror threat within the borders of the U.S. And you want to talk about not having any evidence for such a claim? You want to talk about hate? Now, there might have been some stated opposition to what Lynch said, but did anybody start questioning her fitness to be DOJ Attorney General, or Obama, or any of this, or when Obama was denying conservative groups tax-exempt status, for example? Yeah, but Janet Napolitano that released that report on the greatest terror threat inside the U.S. was posed by right-wing extremists. Remember that? And right-wing extremists meant people that ran wacko websites. This is in Napolitano's view. It also means in Obama's view. Wacko websites, wacko media figures in general and so forth. And I don't remember our media. I don't remember conservative media getting that outraged at such claims and demanding that the people who think like that pose a grave threat when, in fact, they did. Now, I want to go back and explore this Trump tweet about being surveilled by Obama one more time. I did this yesterday, and I'm going to go do it again. What do you mean, Rush, you're defending Trump? I'm not defending anybody here. I'm just using some common sense. Since last July, we've been told there's an investigation of Trump. Comey admitted it. There's an investigation of the Trump campaign and the Russians to see if there's any... every time I say this, I get frosted because it's absurd. Because at the same time they say this, they have admitted that there was no way they could have fixed the election. So what is this really all about? Well, anyway, in the middle of these 5 months, throughout these 5 months, and longer, there have been stories, leaked information from intelligence sources deep inside the intelligence community, as stated by the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN. And they've contained information that's classified. They have contained information that may be false. Where did they get it? If there wasn't some kind of surveillance going on, where did this stuff come from? There clearly has been some surveillance going on. And since it started in July of last year, that means it happened during the Obama presidency. We still don't know about those 2 FISA warrants. We don't know if they were actually ever sought or if that's bogus news. But when Trump threw that grenade that Obama has been wiretapping or tapping his wires at Trump Tower, look at what happened. What happened was that all of these people that had been leaking things and all of these people that had been printing things and all of these media people that had been running stories citing wiretaps and other sources deep inside the intel community denied that they'd been doing that. They denied that there was an investigation. Trump's off his rocker. Well, then how did that stuff end up in the news? How did people learn it? How did they learn about Mike Flynn talking to the Russian ambassador if there wasn't some surveillance going on? But that one tweet from Trump that Obama was surveilling him, tapping his wires, and now you had Comey and the NSA guy at the committee hearing on Monday said, no, there's no evidence. We found no evidence, none whatsoever. Well, there has to be some evidence somewhere because there was surveillance going on somewhere, and it happened during the Obama administration. But even with all that, can you believe how out of their minds they are with simply Trump alleging that Obama would be spying on him? It has sent them off the deep end, and they are reacting to this as irrationally as you can possibly imagine and see. And this is leading them to think that Trump is the one that's insane, that Trump is unbalanced, that Trump poses a grave threat to the Republic. And I guarantee you, if these people, they believe it. I do believe that they mean it when they say this stuff. And I think it means they are scared to death. And what they may be plotting, what they may be considering, what they may be going through, whatever reaction they're having is what alarms me. I think of all of the allegations that were made against George W. Bush when he was president that make this claim by Trump that Obama was surveilling him, and you put it all in context of things, and it pales in comparison to some of the stuff that's been alleged and said about Republican presidents or conservative figures of high reputation. And yet the reaction is this is the absolute bottom. This is the absolute lowest. This is beneath anything and everything we've ever seen. And it's beneath anything we should ever tolerate, accept, and so forth. So I'm not defending anybody here, folks. I'm just sharing with you how I think about this stuff. There was surveillance going on. It could not have been otherwise. Now, let's move on to this terror business here in the UK, because there is this story that's been circulating out there for 2 or 3 days, and I shared with you the headline from the Washington Post moments ago. Trump won't allow you to use iPads or laptops on certain airlines. Trump. Donald Trump is denying you, if you're on a certain airline flying in the United States, Donald Trump is denying you the chance to use your electronic device. From Tuesday on, passengers traveling to the U.S. from 10 airports in 8 Muslim-majority countries will not be allowed to have iPads, laptops, or any communications device larger than a smartphone in the cabin of the plane. So why is the U.S. doing this? It says here, and how can it get away with it? Don't you mean, why is Trump doing this? And how can Trump get away with it? Well, the story here says that the U.S. says it's all about security, but there is an alternative explanation. 3 of the airlines that have been targeted for these measures, Emirates, Etihad Airways, and Qatar Airways, have long been accused by their U.S. competitors of receiving massive effective subsidies from their governments. These airlines have been quietly worried for months that President Trump was going to retaliate. This may be the retaliation. The United States is weaponizing interdependence. Do you realize, folks, how utterly bogus this story is? And this is the best example of many today that I could cite for you of how unbalanced, out of kilter, and insane the media has become. 3 of the airlines that have been targeted for these measures have long been accused by their U.S. competitors of receiving massive effective subsidies from their governments. These 3 airlines have been quietly worried for months that Trump was going to retaliate against their subsidies. And this may be the retaliation. Are you kidding? So the way Trump is going to even the subsidy ruler is by telling passengers on these airlines that, and it's not just these 3, by the way, there are many more airlines. These 3 are part of a larger group of airlines. That Trump is now weaponizing interdependence. The AP's version of this story, no new threat led to airplane laptop limits, officials say. U.S. and British officials said Tuesday the decision to bar laptops and tablets from the cabins of some international flights was not based on any specific threat, but rather on long-standing concerns about terrorists targeting jetliners. Oh, wait, there's another government involved here? Wait, we just kind of read U.S. and British officials. You mean the Brits have instituted the same ban on electronic devices on certain airliners coming into the UK, just like we have in the U.S.? Well, shazam! It looks like somebody other than Trump's doing the same thing Trump's doing. I wonder if Trump's making them do it. So the Washington Post blames it all on Trump as an evil way of getting even with governments that subsidize their state airlines. The AP says it's the UK and the United States, but there's nothing behind it. They're just doing it because they're paranoid of Muslims. And that means they're bigots and racists. And then Slate magazine, Trump's laptop ban isn't just misguided and xenophobic, it's a giant middle finger to business travelers. So Washington Post, Trump won't allow you to use iPads or laptops on certain airlines. AP, no new threat led to airline laptop limits in the U.S. and the U.K. And Slate magazine, Trump's ban is a giant middle finger to business travelers, in addition to being misguided and xenophobic. New York Times, devices banned on flights from 10 countries over ISIS fear. Whoa, what? Washington Post, no reference here of terror threat. They say there isn't a terror threat. It's Trump wanting to get even with other governments subsidizing their airlines. The AP says no threat. The UK and the Brits are doing it just because they are imagining another jihad from a Muslim terror group because they're racists and bigots. And Slate magazine says that it's because Trump is misguided and xenophobic and is flipping off the business community. Yet the New York Times says flights from 10 countries over ISIS fears. And do you want to know what this really is about? Because I have that here. Laptop ban on flights is based on intelligence about an ISIS plot to target the West gathered during the raid on Yemen, which killed a Navy SEAL. The intelligence centered around al-Qaeda's successful development of compact battery bombs that fit inside laptops. In other words, there is a credible threat. It is a credible threat based on intel that was gathered during the raid in Yemen in January, a raid that Obama had approved before he left office. The military commanders said they couldn't launch until they had a new moon. They needed a totally dark sky. There wasn't a new moon until after Trump was inaugurated. Trump signed off on the deal. It had nothing to do with the strategy, the actual operation. He just signed off on it. The raid was conducted, and we know the details. They somehow knew we were coming, claiming they heard the drone of our drones. They heard the sound. And the SEAL was killed, and the terrorists were hiding and dressed as men and women and children and so forth inside mosques or what have you. And everybody proclaimed the mission an abject failure. Trump said, no, there was a really valuable intel gathered. People poo-pooed Trump as insane, stupid, and a lying sack of you-know-what. It turns out there was intel gathered, and the intel gathered from the raid claimed that ISIS has perfected bombs that work and go inside batteries, inside electronic devices that you would use in the cabin of an airplane, a laptop, an iPad, or an iPhone. And when they learned of this intel, they banned flights from 10 different countries where the intel said people had been perfecting this. There's a solid, specific reason for this to happen. It's not because Trump hates anybody. It's not because Trump doesn't want you using your iPhone. It's not because Trump's flipping off the business community. It's not because Trump's a xenophobe or a bigot. It's because there was a credible threat in both the UK and the United States. And the only place that you will find the details of that story is in the UK Daily Mail. You won't see it in the New York Times. You won't see it in the Washington Post. You won't see it anywhere in America because the objective is not to tell the truth. The objective is to destroy Trump. Be right back. Don't go away. So, we are now being led to believe that Donald Trump colluded with the UK to deny airplane passengers the right to use their laptops, their iPads, and their iPhones. Is that right? UK, United States, Trump colludes with everybody. They say Trump is unbalanced and insane and all this. How about this? How about the guy who compared the attack on Pearl Harbor and the attack on 9/11 to Election Day 2016? You know who did that? That would be the famous Thomas L. Friedman of the New York Times. You want to tell me these are the people not dangerously unbalanced right now? These are the people who have lost touch with reality. These are the people who are not grounded in any substance whatsoever. These are the people who haven't the slightest curiosity to understand what Trump might mean when he says, yeah, you know, Obama tapping my wires at Trump Tower. They don't know how Americans speak. They don't know how Trump voters hear the way Trump speaks. They've got their codes. They've got their language requirements. The establishment is very formal. And when we're talking about the sacred ground of government and the sacred ground of the State Department and the sacred ground of the Pentagon and the sacred ground of the White House, there's only one acceptable way to speak, to behave. And if you are anywhere outside it, then you are unacceptable. Really, Donald Trump's election is on par with 9/11 and the attack on Pearl Harbor. That was written in the New York Times. And that's not unbalanced. That's not screwy? Grab audio soundbite number 23. Nick Robertson, this old buddy Nick Robertson at CNN. Don't have time to tell you why he's our favorite, because I've got limited time before the next break. But this is on CNN's special coverage, UK terror. They're very upset that the police in the UK are calling this terror attack. They're afraid Trump's going to benefit from that. CNN very, very worried this is being called a terror attack. Nick Robertson was on CNN, one of their foreign correspondents, to talk about it.
This is an iconic landmark in London. We've talked about this already. It has long been a concern of the security services that it could become a target. And at the moment, the police are saying, describing it as a terror incident until they get further information. There has been that concern that it could be a target of such an incident. And that's why security around the building has been strengthened in recent years. That's why there are armed police. That's why there are barricades. That's why cars can no longer get close to the building. This one was prevented by the fence and by the wall itself.
What? What did he say? Did he say wall? Did he say there's a wall around Parliament and it worked? Really? Nick Robertson says a wall? He's praising the fence. He's praising security measures. He's praising the wall that kept this car from doing even greater damage. And yet this is the same guy that no doubt supports sanctuary cities harboring known criminals, felons, from apprehension by the U.S. government if they happen to be illegal immigrants, and no doubt opposes a wall to protect this country. Back in a second. There is a photo of the attacker outside Parliament. I don't know, folks, skin color. It looks like a Muslim individual to me. The drive-bys are not showing the photo. I haven't seen it on CNN or Fox, but I've got still shot here. And, yeah, on a stretcher. But they're not showing it. And now the House of Commons has been suspended after the incident at the UK Parliament. And the latest on this is that a full counterterrorism investigation is underway into the attack outside the UK Parliament, according to a police commander who adds there are a number of casualties, including police officers. Now, that's interesting because I've been watching the drive-by media, and the drive-by media talks about one death and car plowing through some people, but they've been downplaying it. At least CNN, to the degree I have been able to pay attention to it. I catch glances, I read the Chiron graphics on the screen, and I did see at one point when it was stated that it was being considered a terror event, I could detect, because I have these detectors, that CNN was not happy about that. And there are probably even drive-by outlets out there that are upset about that Trump will use this. Trump will use this. And this is what I mean by these people are the ones that politicize everything. And it's not just Trump. You know, whenever there was any news of anything at all, the drive-bys always examined it within the context of, was it helpful for Obama? It's one of the things that has driven me crazy about the media for years, and particularly when there have been Republican presidents or conservative initiatives, things that are tackling definite problems in America. We have serious problems in this country, and when there are efforts made to address them, the media never talks about the substance of it, only the politics of it, and whether or not the Republican can get away with it, and whether or not the Republican will have to use racism and bigotry in order to succeed, or whether or not it is helpful or hurtful to Obama and his long-term image. Now, let me give you an example. I know the healthcare debate's raging, and we're having Mike Pence on here in an hour. Vice President Mike Pence will be here. We'll talk to him a little bit about the status of healthcare. Folks, this is another thing, trying to wade through this and figure out how it's going and what is going to end up happening. If you had to pin me down on it in a couple of sentences, it looks to me like nobody wants to vote for this thing, but they think they might have to. Again, for political reasons. Well, because the Republicans promised that they were going to repeal and replace Obamacare, and whatever they do will be called that. You know, just claim victory and claim they did it, and then wait for people to figure out whether or not any substantive changes actually occur. Other people are holding out for real replacement and real repeal. And depending on who you talk to, the votes are not there in the House right now, and they're certainly not there in the Senate. And again, depending on who you talk to, if the Senate, take that back, if members of the House figure out, or not figure out, if members of the House think that the bill is going to get killed in the Senate, then why go down the tubes with it? If it's going to die in the Senate, let's just kill it in the House. And then there's another school of thought that says, no, we have to pass it in the House. It's got to pass the House. We have a definite Republican majority here. If it doesn't pass the House, that's just politically, that's suicide. We've got to pass it out of here, and we've got to send it to the Senate. But the number of Republicans in the Senate who have come out and said they're voting against it, Mitch McConnell's going to need some Democrats for it to pass there. And I'll tell you something else that's happened here. Grab audio soundbite 15. I'm going to get back to what I intended to bring up here, setting the table for the health care discussion to come. Yesterday in Washington, Paul Ryan press conference talk about the president's trip up to Capitol Hill to rally support for the Obamacare repeal and replacement bill. And this is what the Speaker of the House said.
The president just came here and knocked the ball out of the park. He knocked the cover off the ball and explained to our members how it's important to unify, how it's important to work together, how we are advancing our principles, and we are doing what we told the American people we would do. This is our chance, and this is our moment. It's a big moment, And I think our members are beginning to appreciate just what kind of a rendezvous with destiny we have right here.
All right. Now, there are a lot of cynics out there, but you heard what Ryan did. Did you hear what Ryan did there? Do you think, oh, yeah, she really praised Trump, that's cool. Do you think that's what really happened there? What do you think happened? What do you think happened? I know you're not a big fan of the speaker. What do you think happened? Well, I'll tell you what the cynics say happened. That Paul Ryan just turned this thing over to Trump, and it's got his name on it now, not Trump's. And that it goes down, it's Trump's. If it succeeds and nobody likes it, it's Trump's. That Ryan has outmaneuvered Trump. That's what the cynics are saying. That it's a bad bill, that it doesn't have a lot of the things Trump promised, but somehow Trump's up there pushing for it. He got behind it. He got behind Ryan's bill for whatever reason, and now Ryan's done a flip-flop on this and turned a bad bill over to Trump, and now Trump owns it. That's the cynical view of what's going on. So in other words, Republican infighting. The one thing that appears to be true, and again, that's just from this far distant vantage point observing, where is the happiness associated with blowing up Obamacare? Remember now, ever since Obamacare became law, standard operating procedure for any elected Republican has been to promise first, second, and third in any statement to get rid of it. We're going to repeal it. We're going to replace it. We're going to fix Obamacare. We're going to fix the American healthcare system. Okay. So there was an election. Trump wins the presidency. The Republicans increase their control in the House of Representatives. The Senate is controlled by Republicans by, depending on how you count, 2 or 4 votes. And now they're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. And I'll be damned if I can find anybody happy about it. That's one of the... Now, Trump is selling it. He's even tweeting about it, even now, doing great work on health care. It's going to be the greatest health care. It's going to be the best health care. You're not going to believe how great it is. Win, win, win. Trump's excited about it. Trump's out there selling it. And I guess Ryan, in his own way, when he has his press conferences and talking about what's in it and the effort here. But when you get past those two and into the rank and file, have you detected any glow of happiness over this, Mr. Snerdley? Seriously, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not watching everything. I mean, getting rid of this is like defeating socialism. Getting this thing, there ought to be parades. There ought to be bands. We ought to be playing the Star Spangled Banner. God save the Queen. God bless America. Battle Hymn of the Republic. You know, copies of the lyrics and shove them down Chuck Schumer's throat. Where is all that? Where's the celebration of getting rid of one of the greatest attempted socialist takeovers in this country? Am I missing something? Are we adults and we don't celebrate like that? That's not it? Okay. Well, I have all the stories here. If I could go through the minutia. I can get in the weeds with the best of them, folks. I can slither around in there like your average iguana or like a snake, whatever it takes to find you the numbers and to tell you who's voting no and who's voting yes and how many we're short in the House, how many we might be short in the House, depending on what the Freedom Caucus does. I can go back and forth on what the Freedom Caucus may or may not do. The conservatives may stand tight and vote it down. They may vote with it. Depends on what they think the Republicans in the Senate are going to do. And we have people also speculating here that the bill's going to go down anyway, so we got to figure out a way to blame it on the Democrats. The Republicans are saying, no, if the bill's going to go down, we need to find a way to blame it on Trump, because some of us don't like Trump. I mean, they're in the establishment, too, some of these people. Then you throw polling data in the mix. I mean, for people who love to speculate and treat politics like it's a day at the races and you're handicapping horses, this is made to order for people like that, to whom the outcome is only the equivalent of who wins a horse race. But to those of us who are really concerned about how the hell this is going to impact us and our country, it's dead serious. You throw in that Trump's threatened to campaign against any of the Republicans that don't vote for this in 2018, and he means it. So, and then there are those who have, tell me if this is you, there are those who just have total trust in Trump and believe that everything in the news about this right now is designed to make people think it's blowing up, designed to make people think it's a disaster, designed to make people think that it's going to fail, when at the end of the day, it's going to be a grand slam home run and Trump is going to have kept his promise. And if we just let Trump be Trump, let him do what he does, negotiate, do deals and all that, it's going to be fine. You don't know anybody like that? I do. I know lots of people like that. That's easier than rolling up the sleeves and getting into the weeds and the minutia of all this and trying to figure it out. Anyway, what I was going to say before taking that detour, you see, I'm of the belief that this country's a mess not because of Donald Trump. This country's a mess because of liberalism. This country is a mess and getting worse if it isn't stopped because of the Democrats, the modern incarnation of the Democrat Party, which is radical left. I think the American left and the Democrat Party is screwing up people. They're screwing up towns. They're screwing up cities. They're screwing up states. I think they are destroying and perverting our culture. I think that they are a rotting force on the foundation and structure of this country. They pose a much graver threat than whatever threat, if any, Donald Trump poses. Two stories. Let's see, this is, they're both out of California. And the upshot of it is, well, here, the first story, California, here we go. Suffocating regulations have driven California's housing crisis to the brink. This is from thecityjournal.org. The reason, I'll just give you the upshot of the story. The reason fewer and fewer people can afford to live there is because there is layer upon layer upon layer of socialist government regulations, laws, policies, fees, mandates, all compounded by insane residents. Housing is so expensive across California that Joel Singer, the CEO of the California Association of Realtors, said last fall that only about 1/3 of California citizens can afford to buy a median-priced home in California. That's down from 56% who could just 4 years ago. Californians who own their homes spend more than a quarter of their total income on housing, the highest ratio in the nation. In 2014, Golden State renters paid 33.5% of their income on housing, third highest in the nation, despite having rent control laws. And in fact, just as in New York, it's partially because of those rent control laws that rents are actually so high. San Francisco has the most unaffordable rent costs in the world, according to an outfit called Nested, an international real estate service. Los Angeles, 10th on the list. 3 of the 5 costliest housing markets in North America are in California: San Francisco, San Jose, and Los Angeles. And the housing crisis isn't confined to the state's elite coastal enclaves. In Riverside County, part of a region east of Los Angeles known as the Inland Empire. You ever been to the Inland Empire? Yes, I have too. Quite a bit, actually. Well, you drive through there on the way over other places. And if you know, nobody tells you, you don't really, maybe you see the sign Inland Empire. You say, where's the empire? I see the inland, but where the hell is the empire here? When you hear the word empire, you think magnificent estates and stuff. Sorry. At any rate, only 39% of households are able to purchase a median-priced home, which in February was $334,000. for a single-family home. Now, California housing crunch is the product of a dire shortage of homes. Over the last decade, developers have built an average of 80,000 homes every year, but that number is about 100,000 units short of what's needed to keep up with demand. And you know why? You know why construction is? Because of all the damned environmental regulations they have to go through to build a house. It's like California has already spent $100 million on legislation involving fairness. At any rate, it's just one example. And here's another one. Lead poisoning afflicts neighborhoods across California. I thought it was the Republicans poisoning the water. I thought it was George Bush that didn't care about lead in the water. Remember that? Oh, I'm sorry, arsenic. You're right, arsenic. Republicans do arsenic, Democrats do lead. From Reuters, dozens of California communities have experienced recent rates of childhood lead poisoning that surpass whatever happened in Flint, Michigan. One local Fresno locale showing rates nearly 3 times higher. Blood testing data obtained by Reuters indicates. The data shows how lead poisoning affects even a state known for its environmental advocacy, with high rates of childhood exposure found in a swath of the Bay Area and downtown Los Angeles. No kidding. So in addition to unaffordable real estate prices, there's lead poisoning. Who's running this state? For every example of Trump being crazy, unbalanced, unfit, what have you, I can find you 5 stories where Democrats have and are failing the people of this country in serious, deadly ways. And this is what happens when Democrats have power. This is what happens when the drive-by media fail to do their jobs and hold Democrats accountable. That never happens. And all of this is why Trump got elected. And it is normal to find this stuff unacceptable. It's normal to be upset that an illegal alien rapes a young girl in Maryland. It is abnormal to want to provide the rapist sanctuary. It is the Democrats and the left who own the abnormal in our country. And it's run away out of control. And that's why Trump got elected. And nothing you people in the media have done so far has convinced anybody that Trump has become abnormal and that you people are normal. You keep losing elections. I have to take a break. We'll get to the phones. I need to do that when we get back. Don't go away. Did you know that CNN did an entire segment today on the premise Donald Trump is afraid of stairs? They did. CNN did a whole segment on Trump being afraid of stairs. And the AP bid to strip terrorist citizenship, may mark new Trump way. And naturally they oppose this. They oppose terrorists having their citizenship stripped. That is an example of racism and bigotry on the part of Trump. And he must be stopped. Here's Frank in Charleston, Illinois. Hey, Frank, I'm glad you called. Great to have you on the program, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Rush. How are you?
Fine, dandy. Thank you very much.
Hey, mega homeschooling dittos from a family of 7 in Charleston, Illinois. We really appreciate you, Russ.
Thank you, sir.
Real quick, I'm busy at work, and I've got Bloomberg TV on in the background, and they're basically discussing the event that fits President Trump's narrative, and they say he'll probably use it for political gain, but as of yet, no comment from the White House. And I think they're interviewing Nick Wadham from the State Department.
And this is, you're talking about the terror incident at the UK.
Correct.
And they think that Trump will use it for political gain. So they call the White House and they said, is Trump going to use this for political gain? And the White House isn't commenting? Is that?
But as of yet, no comment from the White House.
No comment from the White House on whether Trump will use this incident for political gain, which is exactly what the Democrats do with all of this kind of stuff instead of ever trying to solve it. Oh, man. Back in a second. We're going to have Patricia from Cedarville, Ohio up next. Patricia, hang on. I have to share this with you. Two different sources actually, there's one source, Devin Nunes, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Two stories here, CNN and the Politico. First, the Politico. Ready? Headline: Trump transition members were under surveillance during Obama administration. Now, look, this is going to be treated as big news, but if you go back to the first hour of this program, go back to yesterday, folks, there's no way this could not have been happening for all that news that was made from September, October, November, December, particularly November, December, January, during the Trump transition, with all this leaking coming from sources deep inside the intelligence community and all this leaked data that was being reported. There had to be some surveillance going on for any of this to be known, including Mike Flynn talking to the Russian ambassador. So, Devin Nunes had a press conference this afternoon. Members of the Trump transition team, possibly including Trump himself, were under surveillance during the Obama administration following November's election. Devin Nunes, House Intelligence Chairman, told reporters this afternoon. Nunes said the surveillance appears to have been legal, incidental collection, and that it does not appear to have been related to concerns over collusion with Russia. Nunes is going to the White House later today to brief the Trump administration on what he has learned, which he said came from, quote-unquote, sources. From the CNN version of the story, House Intel Chairman, Trump's personal communications may have been collected. House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes said Wednesday President Trump's personal communications may have been picked up by investigators through incidental collection. Folks, let me tell you what this means. They had to be doing this. This is exactly, I wish I could find it. I remember the exact day and the transcript, because I remember I almost word for word said something along the lines of, let me tell you what I think happened here. I think security agencies were surveilling all kinds of foreign actors, and they end up talking to Americans, and therefore these people were also under surveillance, even though they weren't targeted, and there are procedures to keep those people and what they say quiet, private, undisclosed, what have you. It's called masking. And this was admitted to by Comey on Monday, that indeed this is the procedure, and they were discussing the unmasking of an individual. His name never came up, but it was Mike Flynn they were talking about. Nunes said at a news conference that he discovered the potential surveillance of Trump himself while reviewing intelligence reports, said it was not related to Russia. He said this is a normal incidental collection based on what I could collect. It appears to be all legally collected foreign intelligence under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Really? Does that mean there was a warrant associated with it? The foreign intelligence... No. Nunes is saying Trump was not wiretapped. What Nunes is saying is that there was surveillance that picked up conversations of Trump and his people during the transition. It is not disclosed who was being surveilled. Nunes said again at a news conference he discovered the potential surveillance of Trump himself while reviewing intelligence reports, but said it was not related to Russia. This is a normal incidental collection based on what I could collect. It appears to be all legally collected foreign intelligence under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Well, there's a court that is attached to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. It's called the FISA court, and you have to go there if you want a warrant to surveil. They are never refused. Very rarely are these requests for warrants refused by the FISA court. It's a secret court. You don't know. Only the regime knows. Only the administration knows. They've never been made public. Nunes said he alerted House Speaker Paul Ryan about the collection traveling to the White House this afternoon. Nunes said, I'm actually alarmed by it. He did not know. Nunes said he did not know whether the incidental collection happened at Trump Tower. He could not say for certain whether Trump's communications were directly collected. He said the collection included Trump transition officials and also said that it appeared and happened after the election. Said he could not say whether it meant that Trump was spied on. He said, I'm not going to get into legal definitions, but I clearly have a concern. Now, look, folks, I take you back to this Wall Street Journal editorial today, comparing Trump to a drunk trying to suck from an empty gin bottle. That Trump is dangerously unfit, dangerously unbalanced. He won't apologize for claiming that he was spied on. He won't apologize to Obama. He will not withdraw it. He's doubling down on it. Turns out, and I think it's safe to say that Trump's record remains 100%. The things he says generally have happened or do happen. Nunes said he found this on his own, going through reports. Called a press conference about this, admits to being concerned by it. That Trump and his people were surveilled during the transition. That is what Trump meant. I have no question that's what he meant. When Trump says in his tweet something about how outrageous it is that Obama would tap the wires at Trump Tower. In Trump speak, if the government is wiretapping people, then the president knows about it. And therefore, the president's doing it. That's what Trump means. The president runs the executive branch. The executive branch houses the Department of Justice, which houses the FBI. And therefore, all these agencies report to the president. And therefore, the president would know if this kind of thing is going on and could theoretically even ask that it go on. Despite these people in the media saying, no president would ever do, don't give me that. You impeached Richard Nixon because you thought he wanted to do that. What do you mean no president would ever do it? Anything to protect Obama. But, folks, this has been the point of all of us who have been talking about this since after the election, with news story after news story after news story. And the New York Times headline on January 20th using the word wiretapped to talk about electronic communications that have been heard and reported on, data leaked to the media. Remember all those stories that purported to say that there was collusion between Trump and his campaign and Russia to affect the outcome of the election. And in every one of those stories, they had to put in a little paragraph deep down, sorry, investigators have yet to find any clear evidence, but the indications are that they should keep looking, or some such BS. How in the world could any of that stuff been leaked if there weren't surveillance? Unless somebody was just making it up. Which, in fact, did happen with the Trump dossier. Now, Comey is on record, the FBI director, is on record as saying that the investigation began in July when they looked at that Trump dossier that was written and made up by the Brit, forget his name. It's the dossier that contained false premise after false premise, after lie after lie after lie. And it was explained to us by the intelligence people as an example. They created a fake document with fake intel in order to show it to Trump, to show him the kind of things that he should get used to seeing when he is inaugurated. Trump at the time was saying he didn't think he needed an intelligence briefing every day. And the intel people, like everybody else, they want access to power. And so they were trying to make the case that he should get that daily briefing. And somebody created this dossier that is lie after lie after lie, and it was circulating around Washington for 9 months last year, and everybody knew it was bogus. They wanted to run it, but they couldn't because nothing in it was true. So BuzzFeed finally did run it. They published it, and they published it with a caveat. We can't confirm any of this. None of this has been able to be proven, tracked down, confirmed in any way, but it's so serious we think you should see it and make up your own mind. It was one of the most bogus journalistic decisions in the world. You don't need to be journalists to do what they did. And they have the guts to start talking about so-called conservative conspiracy sites and so forth. These people on the left are the problem, folks. The people on the left are where the insane lunatics reside today, the people that are out of their minds because of what's happened here. It is not Trump that's unfit. It's these people who are unfit. It's these people jumping to conclusions, these people refusing to even consider that Trump might have a point about something. And now here comes news from Nunes that Trump and his team were being surveilled. We just don't know if it was directly or indirectly, but they were caught while surveillance was going on. And Nunes is going up to Trump, White House afternoon, to show him the data. This is after all these denials at this hearing on Monday. But everybody knew what Trump meant. This is the thing. This is where things lose any sense of common sense or reality. People that voted for Trump knew exactly what he meant when talking about Obama tapping the wires at Trump Tower. They don't think that Obama put on his intelligence uniform and found some deep, dark room in the basement of Trump Tower and started putting various cables in holes and jacks in the phone bank. The United States government was surveilling him, and Barack Obama ran the United States government. And the way to get people to listen to you, if you're serious about it, is to mention the president by name. And by the way, it worked, because everybody then started running around like chickens with their heads cut off, claiming there wasn't any investigation. Trump's saying, what do you mean wasn't any investigation? You people have been reporting on the investigation for 3 months. What do you mean no investigation? Anyway, I'll take a break. But this is why I think it's not Trump by any stretch that poses a threat or danger to this country. It's all these reactionaries that have lost their minds, who think that they represent the modicum of decorum, that they are refined, that they are sophisticated. They have the proper manners, and they have the proper breeding. Trump, he's just from Queens. He's a pig from Queens. What the hell's happened to our country? He's a pig. He's a pig. These people, on the other hand, have been rendered one flew over the cuckoo's nest. Yep, and Hillary's still Nurse Ratched, presiding over the whole gang of them. Christopher Steele is the British citizen that created that fake Trump dossier. He created it while he was being paid by an anti-never Trumper and Hillary supporters. And Comey said that that's what they used to start the investigation of Trump and collusion with the Russians. Anyway, Patricia, Cedarville, Ohio, I'm glad you waited. I appreciate your patience, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Raj. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
You had mentioned early on that you were very concerned about the left and how insane they are and what they're going to do. And I feel like, if our Republican Party up there was voted together, I mean, if they had all in one mind, that wouldn't be a problem. You mentioned the voters. Who they listen to, the voters or the Trump or the Koch brothers. And I tell you what, it's not the voters, because we have emailed and called, and they don't like Trump, so it has to be the Koch brothers and the Chamber of Commerce that they're listening to. So sure not us, the constituents.
What she is referring to, folks, I have it here, my formerly nicotine-stained fingers, a Daily Mail story. Republicans face catch-22 on whether to back Trump care, face the wrath of Trump, or the wrath of the Koch brothers. That means donors. The Koch brothers donate big bucks. And President Trump urging GOP lawmakers to back Ryan's health care bill. The Koch brothers, Charles and David, are among conservatives who oppose the health care bill, as does the Freedom Caucus in the House. The Koch brothers have retaliated against Republicans not hawkish enough on reducing government spending. So far, it appears there aren't enough conservatives in the House voting for Trump Care or Ryan Care, whatever it is, to make it win. But it's a new revelation here, Patricia, that the elected Republicans have a trinity, a triune here that they're afraid of. Voters, which is you, and you think they're not afraid of you at all, or Trump, or the dreaded Koch brothers.
Well, they think that we are not going to remember this when it comes 2018 or 2020. And I'll tell you what.
Whoa. No. They know you're going to remember it. That's not how they calculate this.
Okay.
They calculate that they'll be able to assure you again that they mean it this time, when whatever they're telling you that they're going to do.
Right.
And they'll say, look, if you just give us 8 more in the Senate, there's no stopping us. And then, so you go out and you give them 60 votes in the Senate, and then they'll be afraid of Koch brothers or something will come along. No, they know. They've had enough of their big wigs primaried out like Eric Cantor. They know.
Yeah. I think what fuels the left also is that they see such weakness up there. They see Republicans that don't want to make a decision. You know, they don't want to confirm some fabulous guy like Gorsuch. Let's just put this on hold. You know, we can do the nuclear thing, but I don't, you know, we don't want to go there and all that. They see weakness in us, and we're the party that won. It's just ridiculous.
I know.
Rush.
You're singing my tune out there. Roll over Beethoven.
I'm telling you.
You'd never. That's why I said my way of expressing this, I think, last week was to ask people, do you see the glow of victory on the faces of very many Republicans in Washington? It's like I said, if you're really, if this is it, if we're going to get rid of Obamacare, this is the thing that half the Republicans got reelected on. Half of them got elected on. Getting rid of Obamacare, the modern embodiment of socialism, planted in our country to further a socialist takeover, and we're going to get rid of it. Where is the parade? Where are the bands? Where are the cheerleaders? Where is this great celebration to signal that we're finally going to roll this baby back? And I don't see it. Now, about Chairman Nunes, House Intelligence Committee, if the intelligence that nabbed Trump and his campaign team was not about Russia, what was it about? And how does it fit together? I mean, if it was just normal collection, how do 4 Americans end up being unmasked and the subject of leaks in the drive-by media in November and December? Here we go, folks. Back at it. We are Rush Limbaugh and the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Great to have you here. Final busy broadcast hour of the day. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. And we welcome back, and how fortuitous the timing, we have the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, with us. Welcome, sir, and welcome back. How are you doing?
Thank you, Rush. Great to be on with you from...
All right, we've got two things that I want to ask you about, and the first one is breaking news, and I may catch you up short on this because I understand that you, according to the Press Secretary Spicer, you at the White House are not fully briefed on this, but to give you the upshot of it, the U.S. Intelligence Community Chairman Devin Nunes says that he now has confirmed that on numerous occasions the intelligence community did collect information on U.S. individuals involved in the Trump transition, including the president himself. Details about U.S. persons involved in the incoming administration with little or no apparent foreign intelligence value were widely disseminated in intelligence community reports. He said that this was legal intel. It was not about Russia. It was intelligence that had been gathered, and it was of Trump administration or transition officials. And he mentioned that some of this intelligence has found its way into media reports starting after the election, running up to the inauguration. Nunes says the information was legally brought to him by sources who thought we should know it, Nunes said, quote unquote. He didn't provide detail on the source. He said that the additional names of Trump transition officials had been unmasked in the intel reports. He indicated that Trump's communications may have been swept up, and he's on the way to the White House to share what he knows with the president. Has that happened? Do you know any more about this than what I've just relayed here?
I don't, Rush. I do know that Chairman Nunes is going to brief the White House this afternoon on his findings. He addressed the media, and look, we just have every confidence in the ability of this bipartisan committee to examine the facts and bring those facts before the American people. But we'll have that briefing this afternoon. I expect more of that information to be available in the public domain. But I can tell you the focus here at the White House it continues to be eyes forward, and not just on the president's agenda at home with the advance of the repeal and replace of Obamacare and the advance of Judge Gorsuch, but also, Rush, I was just in the Oval Office with the president when he spoke to Prime Minister Theresa May, expressing his deepest condolences and the concern of the American people for the loss of life in the terrorist attack that took place just outside Parliament.
Speaking of which, we've heard there are 4 deaths, including 1 policeman. Is that what you've been told?
I have not had that number confirmed. I was aware from press reports of 2 deaths, but obviously the investigation is unfolding, and as the president spoke to the prime minister, they were continuing their investigation. I will be meeting later today with the Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, here at the White House to both express the deep condolences and prayers of the American people, but also our solidarity with them to continue to confront and to defeat radical Islamic terrorism as a threat to the people of both of our countries and to the wider world.
Is there any connection to this incident yet and the intelligence gathered by the raid on Yemen that has led to the temporary ban on electronic devices on certain airlines incoming the UK and the United States? Any relation between what happened today and the intel you've gathered in that raid?
Not that I'm aware of, Rush, although I know when the Prime Minister and the President spoke this morning, she indicated to the President that if there was any actionable intelligence related to the security of the people of the United States, that obviously our intelligence agencies would work very closely on that. But this is just a horrific incident, and as the facts continue to unfold, it is just a reminder, I think, why this is a time for us to be even more diligent than we've ever been before, I think the American people can be encouraged by the fact that they have elected a commander-in-chief who is prepared to hunt down and destroy ISIS and those who would threaten our people and inspire violence and take violence to our allies. But also, as you saw this week, this is a president who's prepared to take decisive action to ensure the safety and security of people that are traveling to this country, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue to drive forward on policies to ensure in every way that's humanly possible that this kind of violence does not come to our shores again.
Back to the report by the Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes. A lot of people think this is potential bombshell material, Mr. Vice President, because ever since the president made that famous tweet that he thought he was being surveilled at Trump Tower, it's been a feeding frenzy. Today's Wall Street Journal editorial, everybody in the media claiming that the president this won't do. We can't have this kind of behavior from the president. Now, this news today seems to confirm what the president said in a general way. And Mr. Vice President, to me, it's just a matter of common sense. And we had all of those stories in the media from the election on through your inauguration, swearing in, and it contained sources deep inside the intelligence community, identified as such. They were anonymous, and they were giving details of potentiality and collusion and so forth. And everybody was asking at the time, well, how do you know all that? There had to be some surveillance going on. There had to be some surveillance of the Russian ambassador in order for what Mike Flynn was saying to him to be known. Remember, there's no question there was surveillance. And for the president to offer that up and to be poo-pooed by it, now to have this report come out by Devin Nunes, it could be an eat crow day. I know you guys are looking forward, and this is just politics, and you've got a lot of things to be serious about, but you also have a lot of people out there very concerned at the effort to undermine and unseat this president at the same time.
Well, there's simply no question that literally since the morning after the election, there have been voices in the mainstream media and on the political left in this country that have sought to discredit this president even before he took office. I think the resilience that President Trump has shown in driving forward an agenda to make our country safe and prosperous again is truly extraordinary and commendable, and it's appreciated by the millions of people who listen to this show and tens of millions of Americans. But look, we'll take a look at what the Intelligence Committee has come across. I know Chairman Nunes is coming to the White House this afternoon. We'll carefully examine that. But to your point, there were numerous press accounts in major arteries of the media reporting surveillance in the run-up to this becoming a national story. And we'll follow the facts as the Intelligence Committee assembles them on this and other issues, and let them do their work, and the president and our whole team will continue to work on his agenda to make America great again, and that begins tomorrow when we take the first step to repeal and replace Obamacare.
Well, let's delve into that since you bring that up. The most recent, and keeping track of this is its own job. But I'll tell you, the best I've been able to come up with as we are discussing today, 24 members of the House Freedom Caucus, i.e. the conservative caucus in the House, the leader claims they've got 24 votes against the House bill. If that's true, the House bill is going to fail. Is that what you've heard?
Well, I had a great meeting this morning with members of the Freedom Caucus who were kind enough to come over to the White House. You know, Rush, you've known me for a long time. The Freedom Caucus didn't exist when I was a member of Congress, but if I'd have been here when they organized it, I'm sure I would have joined it. I battled against big government, not only under Democrat presidents, but under Republican presidents. I opposed the Wall Street bailout. I opposed the Medicare prescription drug bill, and those are tough fights. But I met with the team today, and I said, look, that for all the debate over the various details of this bill, the truth is that conservatives in the House have improved this legislation. Because of House conservatives, we've managed to add block granting of Medicaid to the states. Because of House conservatives, we now have a work requirement for able-bodied adults in Medicaid. And We're working on additional amendments that will be taken up in the Senate that will expand the ability of people to buy health insurance across state lines. But the simple fact is that
when is that going to happen?
Well, it actually begins in a couple levels. As you know, Rush, this is a step-by-step process. This first bill, along with Secretary Tom Price's efforts at HHS, really do a couple of things. First, we repeal the tax penalties of Obamacare. We essentially take the teeth out of the tiger, and now the American people are no longer faced with a tax penalty if they fail to purchase health insurance.
And the mandate's gone, correct?
The mandate will require 60 votes to take that sentence out of the statute, but we essentially take the enforceability away by removing the tax penalties in this budget bill. And remember, this first bill only requires 51 votes, so the president said to us, get everything you can in this first bill. And so in this first bill, we repeal the taxes, we launch health savings accounts on a broader basis in the country, and most importantly, we passed the largest reform of Medicaid in the 50-year history of this program, transferring Medicaid back to the states with all new flexibility, as I said, with work requirements as an option, and we also allow states simply to take a block grant of Medicaid, all designed so that they can in Florida and all over the country can reform Medicaid in ways that will better serve the most vulnerable in those communities.
Well, let me ask you about that, because again, all I know is what I see in the media. The media says there are governors that are across the country not happy at all with these Medicaid reforms in this bill. They don't like the date. They don't like the expansion being taken away earlier than it was intended to be. Help me understand this. I mean, you mentioned health savings accounts. Are they in this, or does that need 60 votes as well as the state line removal?
Well, in this bill, health savings accounts are made more accessible and easier to use. In this first bill, we're lifting the ban on using a health savings account for medications. It increases the limits on health savings accounts contributions from about $6,000 for an individual to $13,000 for a family, and it allows a couple of other changes that'll make health savings accounts more available and more accessible. But I'll go back to this Medicaid piece. Look, you know, I was a governor. I ran a Medicaid program. We actually got the most expansive waiver for Medicaid in the history of the program in the state of Indiana. We actually introduced health savings accounts into Medicaid in the Hoosier state, and it is to this day having an enormously positive effect on the lives of the most vulnerable. People are now taking advantage of preventive medicine. They're moving from emergency room care to primary care. This is all in this first bill, but make no mistake about it. This is going to be a process where this first legislation is the beginning of the end of Obamacare. We take out the taxes and penalties. We transfer Medicaid back to the states where it can become better and more effective for the people who need it most. We work with Dr. Tom Price to create all new flexibility so that you can see the creation of a national marketplace through deregulation. And then in the final bill that the president will drive through the Congress this spring, will completely eviscerate all that remains of Obamacare on the books, and will make it possible for Americans under the law to purchase health insurance across state lines. And that's the president's vision here. Allow a national marketplace and allow states to innovate in Medicaid. That's a framework for an American system of health insurance.
Right, and I understand, but you still have a problem in the Senate. You've got Tom Cotton saying there isn't going to be phase 2. There won't be phase 3 because this phase isn't going to pass the Senate. Rand Paul is saying that. It's something that I've noticed is that almost all the analysis of this bill is that it's going to fail, and so how can we do this in such a way that the Democrats get the blame for it? It depends on who you hear speak and what you read, what you think about this. Do you have the votes in the House to pass this, do you think?
I believe by the time this vote is called tomorrow night that we will have the votes.
Okay.
As I said, we had a great discussion. But, Rush, look, the great news is for the American people is that in the wake of 7 years of failure, where every promise made by Obamacare has been broken. Remember, they said if you like your doctor, you can keep it. Not true. If you like your health insurance, you can keep it. Not true. They said the cost of health insurance would go down. Not true. All those broken promises are going to begin to be swept away when we begin the process of repealing and replacing Obamacare. And the good news is that all the arguments here are really about how we get there, but Republicans in the House and the Senate are all united around the president's commitment to repeal and replace Obamacare with the kind of reforms that will create that national marketplace and allow states to become the laboratories of innovation in Medicaid to improve health care services and coverage for our most vulnerable.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for your time. We have run out of it here in this segment, but I really appreciate you making time to be with us today, particularly with this timing, with things happening the way they are. That you were able to make some time for us, we greatly appreciate. Thank you so much.
Honored to do it, Rush. Thank you.
Vice President Mike Pence. So you heard there that the arguments over health care are about style, process, but that everybody on the Republican side is oriented toward getting rid of it. Which, look, folks, I think I read more than anything anybody else out there reads, and my memory is one of the greatest memories in human history. And I think we heard something there that is a perspective that we haven't seen, that everybody on the Republican side really wants to get rid of this. There are just disagreements over how and whether this does it. Correct me if I'm Mr. Snerdley, do you know of any Republicans that want to keep Obamacare? Are there some? There may be a couple that waver, but I haven't heard anybody making big news about that. So nobody's brave enough to say it. They may be there. But if that's the case, if there is a unity of purpose as to get rid of it, then there is a foundation to build on. Okay, we have to take a break. We will be back right after this. Don't go away. You got to hear this. The White House press briefing. The media is beside itself over Devin Nunes' discovery of intelligence that shows Trump was surveilled. Trump officials were illegal surveillance, but remember, Trump was insane. Trump is a lunatic. Trump's making it up. Trump's dangerous. And now they found some. So a White House correspondent for Real Clear Politics, Alexis Simondinger, said to Sean Spicer, okay, related to Congressman Nunes, can you explain why the White House has agreed to meet with him about this? The reason I ask is because the minute that Director Comey said that there was an official investigation, it might appear the White House is interfering with it, and Congressman Nunes should present his information not to the White House, but to the FBI. So why is anybody here at the White House agreeing to meet with the Intelligence Committee chairman about his findings?
Let me get this straight. Number one, we asked, as you know, 2 weeks ago, we said this is the appropriate venue. Number two, you guys have asked us over and over again, why aren't we meeting with certain individuals? The chairman of one of the two committees that we asked to look into this wants to share his findings. Or what he knows. I think that is exactly how we've talked about this working. But I would leave it to Congressman Nunes to come up and to brief and share his thoughts. I don't know what his plan is. Obviously, he briefed the media before he briefed us. He went down and talked about what he had found. So, it's interesting. I didn't see any complaints from the media when he shares what he's found with you guys. But when he wants to come up here and tell us this is where the investigation stands and here's what I've learned, there seems to be a little bit of an interesting double standard on that.
It is. I mean, the media is all concerned that Trump's going to tamper with it. That's what they're afraid of. Trump, he's unstable, he's unfit, he cheats. Trump cheats. Trump was put in there by the Russians. Everybody knows that. We in the media know that. And now he's going to have intelligence that shows he's going to cheat. He's going to tamper with it. Trump's going to tamper with the Nunes evidence before it goes to wherever it goes. Folks, Trump is not the guy we need to worry about being, an order of fries short a Happy Meal. That's the media. And the left. They're the people. The elevator not going to the top floor. It is not Donald Trump. These people are seething with rage in there over this news. Part of it, I guess, exposes them. I mean, there's intel. They denied there was intel. They were denied there's an investigation, and now Nunes has found some of it, and some of it he found is what has been reported on by the media. Hey, the media ought to be thrilled with this latest news from Devin Nunes, the House Intelligence Committee, because This documents the FBI stories on wiretaps is true. Media should feel vindicated. By the way, there's a little added twist to this. I knew this was going to happen. The ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, the Democrat leader in that committee, is Adam Schiff, the pencil neck guy from California. And he's saying, what? I don't know anything about this. You haven't told me anything about it. Some congressman by the name of Jim Himes, not to be confused with Teresa Hines, Kerry, this is Jim Himes with an M, spoke with Pencil Neck, and neither of them are familiar with the evidence that Nunes is citing. So, the next guy that's going to be accused of making it up is going to be Nunes. And they're going to, why don't you go sit next to Judge Gorsuch so we can grill you at the same time, Nunes? See how this all plays out. Here's Robert in Dallas as we head back to the phones. Robert, welcome. Great to have you here, sir.
Yeah, Rush, Megadiddles from Dallas.
Thank you, sir, very much.
You know, Rush, I have so much respect for the vice president, but after just listening to, your interview with him, he basically just told us all that they're not going to repeal Obamacare with Phase 1. They're going to do some changes to it and make it better, but they're not going to repeal it. And my problem with all this is to me, this is just a bad deal from the get-go. I mean, Phase 2, even if Tom Price makes some changes, what's going to keep the next HHS secretary, this Democrat, from just going in and changing them right back and us having that same fight again? Phase 3 is a pipe dream. You tell me the Democrat that's going to vote for any one thing that they're talking about in Phase 3, much less all of them. And so, and the vice president just got there saying, well, the president's going to get this done in the spring. Well, hell, it's March 22nd. So when is this? Why not do it? Why are we waiting, doing something now and doing something again 4 weeks from now? To me, it's just the same old last 7 years of the Republicans, where it's always the Democrats that keep us from doing what you wanted. And I will say this, Russ, I have respect for the Democrats because if they were in charge, they'd get their stuff done. They passed everything they wanted through reconciliation. They didn't wait around for this or that. And so, to me, it's just the same old stuff from the Republicans.
I hear you. Rand Paul is out there saying that he thinks the bill's going to be pulled. Now, he said this yesterday, and this thing is changing so fast that he may have changed his mind. But he says once they realize this thing can't pass, they're going to pull it. And then when they pull it, they're going to go back and redo it. And that's when Rand Paul says do it right. Look, I agree with you to this extent that you got to get government out of health care. That's what people don't want, the government involved in health care. Just repeal this. And Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas, said this, like you did just now, it's a pipe dream to think there's going to be Phase 2 and Phase 3. But, look, I can't argue with you about the Republicans and their methodology and, in many cases, their motivation. Like you point out, the Democrats, remember, we didn't have the votes to stop them no matter what they did. Although they might not have been able to get 60 votes in the Senate. So you're right, they did reconciliation for everything, so we allow ourselves to be handcuffed. I say, well, we can only use reconciliation to get rid of some of it. Your point is, we run the show. We won. This is nuke the thing. What's the big deal? And I know a lot of people agree with you. But I think what's driving this is the belief on the Republican side that the American people want something done with Obamacare, and they want it done now. And so this is doing something about Obamacare. And a lot of people are going to claim victory after this, Robert.
But Rush, Phase 1 doesn't do anything to lower the cost of health care. Not significantly, because it does not address pre-existing conditions. And to me, isn't that what's driving health care so high? Hell, wouldn't it be great if my house caught on fire?
There is
somebody that needs some homeowners.
Let me tell you something. Message you might not want to hear it. I don't care if they nuked Obamacare, if they took every weapon they've got and blew it up. Pre-existing conditions is the cockroach that survives every attempt to destroy it. There is not a single person that's going to vote against pre-existing conditions being covered, dealt with, or what have you. It's almost like the Holy Grail. It's almost like the third rail. It's almost become like Social Security in that regard. That's my point. Okay, if that's the objective, we've got two objectives, right? Insure the uninsured and take care of people who are already sick who can't afford it. Do that. Just do those two things. You're dealing with maybe 20 million people. You could do it for far less than what this costs. And then go fix the health business and the health insurance business using markets and the private sector to do it for the most part. I have always thought all of this was a big leap. Now, we know why the Democrats do it. They want, every time I mention this, it ends up being misquoted. You take a look at any totalitarian regime in the modern era, and by modern, I'm talking Mao, the Nazis, the National Socialist Party, even look at Cuba. The first thing that National Socialists do is establish a nationwide health care plan. Why? Because that is, it's easily sellable because everybody gets sick. So you make grandiose promises about treating everybody who gets sick and covering every catastrophe, as only the government has the money to do, yada, 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 yada. But the reason they want it is because that one area, health care, including health insurance, is the single biggest one thing you can do to exercise the most control over your population. If you link people's access to doctors, nurses, and medicine to them behaving the way you want them to, they will behave the way you want them to. If you tell them that they can only have a doctor, nurse, hospitalization if they eat certain things or if they drive certain things, whatever you want them to do, you own them. And that's why totalitarians and tyrants all make a big deal out of healthcare. Even Cuba, it's a joke that there's healthcare in Cuba, but look at how well the propagandas work. It's the best healthcare in the world, it's absurd. Michael Moore makes a stupid movie about it. The second sweeping thing that governments can do to end up controlling their populations and ensuring perpetual power is something like climate change. Climate change as an issue contains pretty much everything leftists salivate over in terms of controlling people, making people responsible for disasters and calamities, offering them a chance to repent, offering them salvation, and then exempting them from the blame that you have foisted on them, and then guaranteeing them clean water and clean air. Obamacare, national health care, and climate change. This is why I am so radically opposed to all of them, is because those two things together get a totalitarian 90% of the way where he wants to end up being. Climate change contains so much of liberalism, so much of the socialist dream. It's got everything. It's got human behavior. It's got blame. It's got salvation. It's got people whose lives don't mean anything. You can tell them they're saving the planet. It's got tax increases. It grows government. People willingly support growing government in order to make sure everybody gets to go to the hospital and the doctor, and the climate's not destroying the planet. And they'll sign up for that as fast as you can give them the forms. And that's why, folks, I am probably gotten to the point of irritating you on some days talking about climate change so much because of how dastardly it is. And the same thing with national socialized medicine. Folks, I meant to mention this earlier. I have to take tomorrow off. I will not be here tomorrow. I'll be back Friday. Known it for a while. I just forgot to mention it till just now. So, well, it's a good thing I remembered, too, because we're almost out of time here. Who we got? Stein? Mr. Stein will be here tomorrow hosting the program. Steve in Bear, Delaware. Welcome, sir. Great to have you on the EIB Network. Hello.
Good afternoon, Rush. Right to the point. Tort reform. Have you heard those two words this year yet?
No, and I don't.
One way to lower real health care costs in the country very quickly. It's tort reform.
I don't expect to hear the words.
Well, you've got big awards. You've got all the extra tests. You got doctors' insurance, and we're paying for that. I know Congress is full of lawyers, and I'm afraid our president might be close to the lawyer lobby.
That's not so much the problem. I was going to get into this. I'm going to have to say this for Friday. There was a story in the Washington Post Sunday. Inside Trump's White House, New York moderates spark infighting and suspicion. There are a couple of Democrats in there from Goldman Sachs. Trump put them in there. And I have tracked this story down. It's normally drive-by media thinking it's BS. This story happens to be on the money. That this may be more problematic than Democrat opposition on certain things. Well, I have to save this to Friday. Thank you for being with us today, folks. Another great excursion into broadcast excellence, and Mike Stein here tomorrow. I have to be away. Back here on Friday. Look forward to it. Open Line Friday. Again, really appreciate you being here. See you next time.